Welcome to Football and Grits. Now changing the logo on our YouTube stream because it had the wrong one up there. Bad producing by me. I'm Andy Staples. He's Brody Miller. My name tag on our live stream says Andy and Ari. Brody, I'm just completely out of sorts after the
Ari
the
lives
SEC
within
trip.
you now. Yeah,
That's right. He's in my head.
Of you. Yes, so I think it is Andy and Ari. His takes now live in your head. Your opinions have changed. I like it.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think after that week of going through the SEC, that he probably thinks more like me than I think like him.
Okay.
I think maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Who, I know we have stuff to get to, but who, how do I put this? Probably bugged the other one more.
It was shocking. I thought that we would.
That's a lot of time with anyone, to be clear. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually was not bad at all. And as we discussed with Nicole on the Live Lines show on Thursday, we actually were good car partners because we both need a lot of pee breaks for different reasons. His bladder's tiny, and I drink buckets full of Coke Zero or iced tea. Yep. So it was pretty perfect, and ended in just thrilling fashion with Texas A&M having a play to win it on the goal line and not winning it. But we need to talk about that because Alabama wins that game, survives. This is the biggest third Saturday in October that I can remember. I'm trying to think back to the last time Tennessee Alabama was this big of a game. It has been a long time.
And it's exciting in two ways because you have two teams kind of not meeting in the middle in a way, but Alabama's in this point of what are they? What's going on with Bryce? I'm not saying they're going down, but we are less sure of how good they are, while Tennessee is just skyrocketing. And they cakewalked through Saturday. I mean, it wasn't even man, this is a huge game. And sure, special teams helped it out and it kind of got out of hand quickly, but Tennessee just flat out looked like top 5 teams look in a big game so it's you're going into this game and it's the perfect matchup of just one, is this really an Alabama team that can make the playoff? And two, man, just this Tennessee team might actually, I can't even recall, maybe that first Gus year at Auburn, I can't think of many times where a team has just jumped up this quick out of any expectation.
Well, Kirby's second season at Georgia,
true, but
they're coming off 6
still Georgia
6 or 7-5 basically. Yeah, exactly. And they had a lot of really good players. Yeah. Tennessee has been struggling for a long time. I mean, even the final Philip Fulmer years, they did win the East in 2007, but it didn't feel like that was a great team. It was more that they played just an incredible game against Georgia that year and wound up winning the East. But this is a team that feels like it can do some stuff, even with Georgia still out there as potentially the team that wins the East. But I do feel like this Tennessee team can compete with Alabama. Now, maybe Bryce Young comes back. He's perfectly healthy. And Alabama, I think the days of Alabama just going and blowing Tennessee out are over.
Agreed.
Remember 2016, Tennessee beats Florida. They beat Georgia on the Dobnell boot game. And then they play Alabama, and it's Jalen Hurts. And Alabama's really gone all in on RPOs, and Tennessee just gets murdered. And it ruined them for the rest of the year. They would go on and lose to South Carolina, which that game basically cost them the SEC East. Then Butch Jones breaks out the champions of life going into the Vandy game.
That week? Oh, God.
They lose the Vandy game, and then they don't get to go to the Sugar Bowl. Yeah. So I don't think Tennessee has to win to continue its ascent, obviously. But given what I saw Saturday in Tuscaloosa, there's a path to Tennessee winning, even if Bryce Young plays.
Absolutely. It's the Bryce thing is such a hard factor, and the one thing in theory you should do well against Tennessee is pass the ball, explosiveness, all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, Bryce Young should be able to do that. But Bama, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Bama's receivers just haven't been able to really capitalize on that. That Arkansas game, how many open chances were there that just kind of not drops overly simplistic, but missed chances on the receivers. So again, Bama still should have the advantage there, but I don't know if you're set up to just dominate that. And Tennessee's defending the run really well. I think they're 9th in pressure rate too, so they can do some stuff against Alabama's offensive line. It's again, I'm still favoring Bama. I think they're 7.5 at this point. Like, yeah, Bama should win. But to your point, there's just enough pieces of the recipe to be like, yeah, Hendon Hooker is one of the few quarterbacks I do trust against like a good defense with things going on to not crumble and do things well. Like, there's just a lot of things that make me think, yeah, Tennessee can win this game, 30% of the time, maybe 40% of the time. Like, this team just feels real in the right ways. They have tons of flaws, but not the kind of flaws that cancel you out of games.
I think Neyland Stadium will be very helpful as well. This is going to be the most intense atmosphere they've had there in a long time, which I know I'm saying that even though I said that before the Florida game, and I feel like I've said that a couple times, but it's real. True because they are ascending to places they have not been in a long time. And I would say they're ahead of schedule at this point in year 2 of Josh Heipel. But this Alabama team, you're right. The receivers don't separate as well as they have. And I think they'll probably grow up as the season goes on.
Yep.
And they'll probably be very good as their careers go on. But we're just so spoiled watching what we saw at Alabama with Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs, going back to Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper and even Julio. So the Nick Saban era has produced so many good receivers at Alabama. It's strange when we see them without a first or at least one first-round draft pick in the receiving corps right now. And maybe there is one, we just haven't met him yet.
Yeah, true. And also, I'm not really in the dunking on coordinator thing, but I do wonder, we are at 2 years now of Bill O'Brien, kind of. There just doesn't seem like there's that same explosiveness, that same ability that Sark had of just getting receivers. I know it was the talent, but also getting the receivers just 10 yards open like Ryan Day's offenses do and stuff like that. I wonder. But my question for you is, and I know it's impossible to really answer, but looking at the Milroe version of Bama against, Arkansas, now A&M.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything new about this team, whether good or bad, or do you kind of just have to cancel that out because Bryce makes this a different team?
I think they can lean on the run game because of Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, if that makes sense.
It does.
You know that when the other team has the ball, that you are going to get pressure on their quarterback and you're going to potentially pressure them into a mistake. For example, that Haynes King interception at the end of the first half was a complete pass rush production. I think it was Chris Braswell and Will Anderson about to hit him at the same time. And that got them 3 points, which turned out they kind of needed that. So it's one of those things that you can feel comfortable being conservative offensively, running the ball, eating clock, and know that you probably once or twice are going to get the ball in incredible field position because of your pass rush.
No, that's fair. That's completely valid. And then my other question for you is, let's say Tennessee wins this game, hypothetically. Let's say they beat Alabama and then lose to Georgia, right? And they're 11-1. This is the obvious discussion, but
they're in the playoff. Yeah, they'd be in the playoff.
I guess there's always the context of who knows, maybe USC's undefeated, Big Ten, all that. But
they'd be in the playoff over Alabama probably if Georgia played Alabama in the championship game and beat them.
Okay. Then next scenario, and I know this is silly, but
oh boy,
lose to Bama, beat Georgia.
Bama beats Georgia.
But then that means Bama and Tennessee have a rematch in the SEC title game, right? That would most likely be the scenario if Tennessee beats Georgia.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So in that scenario, and Tennessee loses again. I'm sorry, my brain's foggy. And Tennessee loses again, what happens? 2 losses, but to the number 1 team in theory in the country.
They don't make the playoff. But
right, yeah.
Want to hear a scenario that'll make everybody's head explode?
Please,
except
that's
for the
what we're here
people
for.
Listening to this podcast. The people listening are probably like, well, hell yeah! But you ready?
Yes.
Tennessee beats Bama.
Yes.
Loses to Georgia by 1. No, by 3 in overtime on a field goal in overtime.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Alabama beats Georgia in overtime in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
So you have 12-1 Georgia, 12-1 Alabama SEC champion, 11-1 Tennessee that has beaten Alabama. 3 SEC teams in the playoff. It'll happen.
Ooh, some real big. Well, I forget what year it was. Some real Big 12. Everyone canceling each other out. Energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, that's. I just don't. And it's also a tough year to do it because, again,
That's not going to happen. By the way, there's no way that happens.
Yeah. First off, that scenario doesn't seem that crazy to me. I don't know. Like that those three things happening seems totally realistic. But yeah,
somebody will lose something else along the way.
That's a good point. Because, yeah, it's like I assume USC loses one game, even though I love them. But say USC's undefeated. Whoa. Ohio State's undefeated.
Those UCLA Bruins, just watch out for them.
I know, man. I cannot wait for that game. But I also kind of think Utah wins this week. Doesn't matter. And then say Clemson, USC, and Ohio State are all undefeated. Yeah, ruins that scenario. But man, I'm here for it. Not because I host an SEC show, but it doesn't hurt. But yeah, back to this game.
The 12-team playoff would start next year, even though they said that's not possible. The other leagues were like, nope, we're never doing this again.
That's true. So maybe we do need now. This. Yeah, maybe we need it to happen to get the 12 immediately because I'm pro 12. And actually, I think it was you and Ari who really convinced me on 12. I was so out on it, and then last year you guys swayed me. But my question then, not question, but the thing I'm so excited about this game is, I don't think Florida genuinely tested Hendon Hooker in a real way. We just showed how good he was. And LSU, Hendon Hooker played great against LSU. He earned it. But it also didn't get to really show the test because that game just started so weird that it was 13-0 within minutes. In the game, just the calculus of that game.
Here's my thing about this, Brody, and this is where Tennessee really impressed me on Saturday.
Yeah.
LSU fell behind 13-0 and 14-0 in 3 other games.
You are absolutely right.
And came back, lost one of them, but won 2 of them. And Tennessee didn't let them do that. Tennessee shut the door on them and never let them back in.
No, they had a great defensive game plan in so many ways where they just removed the run from the game entirely. I think LSU running backs averaged 1 yard per carry, no exaggeration, and basically just said, Jane Daniels, go beat us in the air. And
which if it's Jalen Milroe, that's what's going to happen. But I think it's going to be Bryce Young. I think the entire point of keeping Bryce Young out of the Texas A&M game was to make sure he's ready for the Tennessee game. And if you heard Nick Saban talk all last week, it was basically they don't want to stress that AC joint and cause a setback because they think he can be ready.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But to the thing that I think you and I have both been yelling for a few weeks now, you learn more about teams by how they play in these contexts and situations. You don't learn about teams by how good they are just play by play against worse teams. And yeah, they a defense that I don't think is great was able to have the right game plan and just dominate, quite frankly, in reality. I was just going to say the bummer was we didn't get to really see Hendon Hooker against LSU is a good defense. They actually played well, and just that game made it look different. I still can't wait, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. I just can't wait to see Hendon Hooker genuinely back against the wall tested in a game like this, because he will be, and this will be his moment where he's still my number 1 Heisman vote. And if he does it Saturday, even if he does and they lose by 3, he's probably the Heisman frontrunner at that point.
Well, these 2 quarterbacks you just love. You love to watch them play. You're confident in them at any point. I remember Bryce Young taking the field in the Texas game when Alabama needed to march down the field. This is not for the field goal. This is for the touchdown drive before that. And you're just I have supreme confidence that no matter what happens, he'll get them the points they need. And then the same thing on that field goal drive against Texas. You knew he was going to get them what they needed. I feel the same way about Hendon Hooker. You could hit him. There was a hit Hendon took in the LSU game that I think he fumbled.
Yes.
And he lost, but Tennessee recovered the fumble. And I was like, how did he even get up from that? I would need to be in the hospital for 2 weeks after getting hit like that.
Yep. And he was rusty for 2 throws and then just threw a beautiful, if my timeline's correct, and threw a beautiful touchdown pass in the corner. And that just shows you, and man, this I want to make a ranking one day of just what we're talking about. This you and I are very tangible people, but still just that intangible thing of this weird quarterback command that's hard to articulate, but it's just there are better quarterbacks than Bryce Young. I believe that, but there aren't any quarterbacks that I trust
that I believe in more. Exactly. And
it's what is that? I don't know. It's Tom Brady in 04 is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's Tom Brady wasn't that amazing in 04, but he was going to do the right thing. I don't know what that is.
I think it's an attitude. It's something that comes off the person.
Yeah.
You can feel it if you're around them. You can see how they affect other people. I really think it is the way they affect other people. And Bryce Young instills confidence in his teammates. Hendon Hooker instills confidence in his teammates in a way that, say, Anthony Richardson has not learned how to do yet.
Yep.
Will Levis, I think, probably does something like that, especially if you saw Kentucky this past weekend without Will Levis.
Yeah.
You see, it's very different.
Yep.
And I mean, this is the issue with the Auburn quarterbacks. I think Stetson Bennett instills confidence in his teammates. I mean, Stetson Bennett always seems in control.
And control is the word. Yeah. It's like command. And it's really IQ to some extent is what we're talking about.
Right.
It's like when there's
what
chaos,
you're doing.
Yeah. And when there's chaos around you, you know that chaos means there's an opening somewhere else. Like that's really all this is about. And it's just, it's beautiful to watch. This is why I can't wait. Like Tennessee doesn't have an amazing pass rush, but a good one. And it's like two very good pass rushes that are just going to we are going to watch the thing we are talking about.
Yeah.
In beautiful, high intensity Neyland Stadium primetime, baby. Well, not primetime, but you know.
And the thing is, I wasn't entirely sure Tennessee was going to get back to that. And I don't know if Tennessee will get back to that level.
I want to get to that one real quick in a sec.
You've still got to win games like this or games like the Georgia game to get back to that level. And I don't know where they're at. This will be a great litmus test to figure out how close are they to that, because there was a point during all that mess, whether it was Derek Dooley, whether it was the end of the Butch Jones era, whether it was that crazy coaching search after that, I mean, the doldrums of the Jeremy Pruitt era, where you thought Tennessee will never be at that level again. The world has changed too much. Well, guess what? We could be sitting there in the third quarter on Saturday and going, Tennessee might be near that level.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to get to is first off, you're right that there is this unfortunate scenario that and it's just college football. They might oddly still end up with 3 losses and all of this is just suddenly deflated, which would stink. I'm not rooting for that. But no, say they do it, man. Say they actually have that year. And, even if they don't make the playoff, only top 6 team. I'm at this point where I can't tell if Tennessee is a program that is genuinely about to be back, or if Heipel and Hooker is just a great marriage and they're booming up. But then it becomes, and this is so complicated, but then by kind of not fraudulently, but ahead of time, cheating a few steps, does that then help you get back sooner because of the claim you're getting all these things? Because Tennessee's recruiting class next year, you got Nico. It's not some great class. Heipel's biggest question is recruiting. I just wonder, are they going to be back, or would that help them get back?
Well, here's the thing. Hendon Hooker and Josh Heipel were not the plan.
Okay.
There was not a plan for them to be together.
Yeah.
Hendon Hooker transferred to Tennessee when Jeremy Pruitt's staff was still there. He did not know that Pruitt was going to get fired, though he might have had some suspicions. Yeah. But he did not know that Josh Heipel would get hired. That just wasn't on the radar at that point. Danny White did look at other coaches. He didn't just go hire the guy that he'd worked with at UCF. There were other, and there were people who turned it down. Remember, people were piling into the transfer portal at that point. It was a desperate situation. This is just a confluence of events. Sometimes it's kismet. Sometimes it just works. And it's beautiful to watch because these two people were meant to work together. And remember, they didn't pick Hendon Hooker at first. They picked Joe Milton. Yeah. And if you ever watch Joe Milton practice, you'll understand why. But when they put Hendon Hooker into the pit game last year, magic happened. And you just realize this is supposed to happen. These two are supposed to work together. Alex Golish, the OC, doing a great job too. They are really taking advantage of this very fortunate break that these people all came together at once. And if they can cash in on it, yes, they're 2 years ahead of time.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's fun to watch. It's funny because, I think fans of the other schools get mad because the Tennessee fans are so intense and they're making fun of you or they're mad at you for something. But how do you not enjoy watching this particular team? They are fun.
I think they're number 1 on the ranking, right? Is it fair to say? I know Kansas is fun. Are they? I think
TCU is fun, but
TCU is so fun. And
Tennessee
USC
might be the most fun.
Yeah, I think they're one on the I know Bill Simmons and Zach Lowe used to do the league pass rankings of teams you just want to flip on league pass. Yeah, I think Tennessee's probably number one just because all the things we're talking about. So yeah. And maybe the answer really to what I'm asking is just kind of the Michigan State thing, even though they're down this year, is you are now cool. You are now proving what you can do with the quarterback. So the next big quarterback that's on the market, and I know they're getting Nico, but still you probably need a stopgap maybe. But the next quarterback that's on the market,
Joe Milton's still there if you can work with Joe. So
I didn't know what the expectation was there. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Again, if you watch Joe Milton practice, you're like, this is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So the thought is maybe as he grows up, you get him into games and things will be better. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Or maybe Nico comes in and just lights the world on fire. Who knows? Yeah. So no pressure, Nico. I can't imagine what else would provide pressure on Nico. But there's a lot going on there, and I'm very excited. Now, Alabama could still, with Bryce Young back, go in there and win this game 38-7, and then
that would be the only really bad scenario, I think.
Tennessee's still ahead of schedule if that happens.
Yeah. It just deflates though. I mean, you're right. It doesn't, bottom line, it doesn't really matter. But if Tennessee loses by 13, no problem. What's supposed to happen, things are good. You played a competitive game. If you lose 38-7, it just it makes everything I keep talking about empty calories with Tennessee. It makes you go back to that week 2 assumption they might be empty calories, but I really don't think that'll happen. So it doesn't matter.
No, yeah. Watching them play so far, I would assume they're favored against every team they play the rest of the year except Alabama and Georgia, and favored by a touchdown or more against everybody they play the rest of the year except Alabama and Georgia. So, 10-2 is now my expectation for them. That's not
the right way of viewing it.
Yeah. So
I'd agree.
It's going to be a fun game. This is everything we want in a big SEC October game. 3:30 Eastern time, CBS, and only for a little bit longer on CBS. But just enjoy your while you got it, because it's going to be the second best Big Ten game soon. So, Brody, let's move on to another game in the league. We heard some buzz a few weeks ago that Bryan Harsin may be done after the Georgia game. That is not the case. He is still at work, dialing up fake punts that won't work. And Auburn now headed to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is undefeated. Got a little scare in the first half against Vanderbilt, but then roared back in the second half, scored a bunch of points. Can you tell me the last year that Ole Miss beat Auburn, Brody Miller?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to guess it was Freeze. So
I
don't know. 16?
Nope.
Before?
Think swag. Not Dr. Bo.
So not Bo. 17?
15. 2015.
Okay, I got my Chad years messed up.
Yeah, you got your Swag Kelly years messed up. Dr. Bo lost to them.
That is wild.
That was the Laquan Treadwell. When Dr. Bo lost him, that was when Laquan Treadwell broke his leg. That was a very gruesome injury. And that was when Ole Miss was Mississippi State was 1 and Ole Miss was 2. And it was.
I blanked out last year. I have no recollection of how Auburn won 31-20 last year.
They shut them down in the second half. That's how they won.
I have a good memory, but that one is absent. So what are you saying? Are you saying you are now believing in some juju that Auburn could really make this a football game?
I'm saying Auburn tends to play Ole Miss well historically. Now, if Auburn doesn't play Ole Miss well here, if they just go in and get destroyed, then I think you've got an open date coming up. You've seen all you need to see at that point, right?
Yes. I think at that, right. It wasn't the hope you are always going to be, I'm always going to defer to you, but wasn't the hope always that if you get to the bye week, that's ideal? Wait till the bye week. It just didn't seem realistic. But then I guess the LSU game bought you a smidge of time. I don't know. But
the Missouri game, because I think they would have done it after the Missouri game if they'd lost. But it's just, there's not an obvious interim on the staff. I would not necessarily make one of the coordinators the interim and put more on that and on their plate. I would make one of the Auburn guys the interim.
That makes sense.
Whether it's Zach Etheridge or Cadillac Williams.
Ooh.
And I realize we're talking about this he's already lost it. He's not going to be their coach next year.
Yeah.
There is no scenario in which Bryan Harsin coaches Auburn next year. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm even just like looking at like in my head, Auburn had a good run defense this year. But they don't actually. They have a good pass rush, but they're dealing like they have no good run defense. So
it's
Ole Miss is gonna, you would assume, just win this game 37-14, and that's the end of the Bryan Harsin era. But yeah, man, it's there's no coming back for Bryan Harsin.
Well, and let's talk about Ole Miss because they did have their fart around, look bad half, but they didn't let it continue. They turned on the afterburners in the second half.
And that's kind of who they are to some extent. It just kind of seems like, the Tulsa game was a lot like that too. It's like there's something about this team, which again, this is not an insult. This is kind of giving credit to what Lane Kiffin's doing, but like this isn't a great team. It isn't. Their depth isn't that great. Passing game's not that good. Like there's a lot of things that don't work. And yet I think it's like I hate thinking of football this way, but there's a little bit of they can just kind of figure it out when they need to, and they kind of pick their spots a little bit of like, and I know that's not literally what's happening. They were just getting beat by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was earning that, and that is not a good look for Ole Miss. And I'm still down on Ole Miss in a lot of ways. I don't think they should have won the Kentucky game, but I do just have to shut up sometimes and give them credit.
But they did.
They always figure it out. Yeah.
You're starting like the Kentucky game, you're starting a redshirt freshman at right tackle who's never started before. And he becomes the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. So that's the thing. They've actually got a pretty good offensive line.
Yeah.
That's why you see like Zach Evans averaged 7.3 yards a carry against Vandy. And he and Quinshon Judkins are the stars of that team. It's not what we've thought of. Everybody thinks Lane Kiffin just wants to throw the ball. He just wants to move the ball. He does not care how it happens. And this particular team is better at running the ball. So,
and even the Matt Corral teams, I feel like there was a misperception. Like Matt Corral was the star; he made everything work, and his numbers were great. But that team was still really built on running the ball. Like, Absolutely. And you're the one who pointed this out to me last week. Like that, I think it was you that just like the entire thing of Lane Kiffin going to Baylor and learning stuff was really about learning. Like the joy he found in explosiveness and running the ball. Like I feel like there's a misunderstanding there.
Right,
this team is the best example.
Well, and go back to FAU because that was the first year he got to run it on his own without Nick Saban saying, "I would rather you do it this way." Because Saban, it felt like the Baylor stuff was a little too extreme for him. He did not want to do that because he felt like it doesn't allow a certain kind of physicality in the running game, and also. Because the receivers are so wide outside the numbers, it takes away outs. It takes parts of the route tree out.
Interesting.
And so some coaches just aren't going to go that far. But if you look at Lane's first year at FAU, Devin Singletary, who stars for the Bills now, was unstoppable. Like he led the league. I think he led the country in touchdown runs. So it was. This has been a while coming, but let's stay in the state of Mississippi because. The Bulldogs keep rolling. Now, no KJ Jefferson for Arkansas, so you knew they were behind the 8 ball already. But this offense between the Texas A&M game and the Arkansas game, and I realized that neither of those defenses is great, but you saw Texas A&M's defense look halfway decent against Alabama. They couldn't get to Will Rogers.
Nope.
And he tore apart Arkansas.
Yeah, I think it was really impressive for Mississippi State to just get worked the way they did in that second half against LSU. And you start being like, wait, is this O-line that good? Like everything we thought was a strength was in question. And then to go just kind of handle business convincingly the last few weeks against A&M. I think their win expectancies by Connolly are like average 90% against A&M and Arkansas. And like you said, protected Will Rogers, which looked like such an issue against LSU. That is just really impressive. I know you, me, and David were all just in on this team before the season. We thought, and it's like, I think David and I both were talking about, even after the LSU loss, that didn't change anything for our expectation of this team because the SEC is about depth and reducing your drop-offs and all these things. That's what it's really about. And they're deep and they're well-rounded. They don't have this like, holy crap, glaring hole. And you're seeing that. Like you can lose a game and it doesn't change who you are. While like when LSU gets whooped, it's like, oh crap, you got to pivot. What's going on here? And it's like, No, I think Mississippi State's just well-rounded. And I really hope Will Levis is available this week against, for Kentucky against Mississippi State, because this should be the football nerds game. Like Kentucky and Mississippi State are the two teams that every tool, like me and you, are just like, no, you guys don't get it. Like they're really the more well-rounded team. And it's like, this should have been it. And even if he's available, you don't know how healthy he's going to be.
Could we bring back Kentucky's O-line from last year for this? Because that would really be the nerd game right there.
Yeah.
It's them not being able to protect very well is just killing the vibe here. And that's the problem. I would like to have seen that, but that's where I worry. Even if Levis comes back, and he may be somewhat limited if he is back, that's a tough ask against that defense when you can't protect that well. And they're not blocking for the run that well either. Yeah. It's not like, Chris Rodriguez came back, but he didn't magically start carrying, averaging 7.5 yards carry or anything like that, because it's not as easy to run when you don't have 3 NFL guys in front of you. So that's the tricky part right now for Kentucky. Now, here's the other part for Kentucky. You got to watch what you say. Mark Stoops went to SEC Media Days, and he had some things to say about Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer had a tremendous video starring Soulja Boy as they went to SEC Media Days, and everybody was talking. It was the buzz, and Mark Stoops decided to throw some water on that and say, we got dancing around wearing sunglasses. That we don't need that. We're a program of substance. That's not the sort of thing you can expect from Kentucky. Well, if you're going to say that, you better make sure your NFL first-round prospect quarterback can play, because they might come and kick your ass and then do this.
Make sure we're classy in our post game with the media, all right? But at SEC Media Days, he talked about stupid sunglasses and dancing. Put him on,
So beautiful.
Them singing the song is I was like, how are they going to get around the copyright deal on this thing? Oh, they're just going to sing it. It's amazing.
That was thought out.
I don't think the players thought that out.
I was going to say, are they that bright?
They got some geniuses working in the video department of South Carolina.
Touche. Okay.
Geniuses. Fair. So they had this taken care of. Brody, South Carolina is 4-2 heading into its open date. I'm not going to play the game that Ari and I play on my show. Are they good?
Well, by the way, I
don't think they are, but
I have to make fun of this, by the way, real quick, because I want to keep this.
Yeah.
You guys, I remember 2 weeks ago listening and be like, yeah, does anyone do that? I'm like, you do realize Bill Simmons, the most made fun of Bill Simmons bit is are we sure? Are we sure they're good?
Yeah, that's where we stole it from.
No, okay. I'm not actually putting it down.
I knew we stole it from somebody. I just couldn't remember who we stole it from.
I'm not. The segment still slaps. I'm not insulting.
Okay.
It's just I was laughing. I'm like, that's the most made fun of.
I just couldn't remember where I stole the "Are they good?"
Yeah, are you sure they're good? But anyway, continue. I apologize.
No. So listen, South Carolina, Missouri, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Florida. I expect South Carolina to either win or be very competitive in those games. The South Carolina A&M game, and I realize that is not this week. There's an open date between these games, but I just want to have a little appetizer before we close the show. A thought starter, if you will, a bread starter. It's sort of like when somebody hands you the bread starter. This yeast has been around for 47 years. It makes the greatest Amish friendship bread you've ever had. That's what this is. So this loaf will be being baked next week. But South Carolina could cause a massive existential crisis in College Station by going in there and winning.
And by the way, SP Plus has it at a 0.4 difference. Literally, it's a actual toss-up in this game, which is shocking because I didn't think South Carolina would look for real. And it's first, I'm trying to figure out, because I don't look at this team and think they're particularly good when I watch them play. There's nothing they do. But again, what do we talk about so much? It's like so much of it's in the margins. And man, first off, that video tells you so much, right? Like I have the biggest antenna up for like corny tryhardism. Like I am on the lookout for it probably being cringy 90% of the time. And we've seen that so many times, so many coaches. But man, that reaction you get, and there's the tryhardism where it's like you're trying, and this is like you believe it, like it's real.
They they love him. They like playing for him.
It's Tom Allen in a way.
Yeah,
it's like it's millennial Tom Allen pretty much. But yeah, and it's like I don't know, like there's a difference when you know the coach is actually having fun with it and being that corny in an authentic way, and that does something. But even football wise, man, like their special teams. And I love looking at special teams. It's like a margin for how well coached you are. Like it tells you, and they're number 2 in special teams SP+. Like they are a well coached.
Shane Beamer was a special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
Also, he's a Beamer.
Great point. Honestly, that is like, thank you for being like, no shit, Brody. But still, that tells you this team is well coached. They don't have a strength, but they're not bad anywhere. Right. Is the weirdest thing about them. I guess the run defense, but still, like, you're right, man. I'm here for this. Like, they can weirdly, and David even kind of put some seedlings out there like 4 weeks ago that, like, I think he said buy and or buy sell. Like, they can win some games. Man, yeah, you beat Missouri probably. You beat Vanderbilt probably if you play like you should. And if you pull out A&M, you are 7-2, a top 18 whatever team. Like the conversation around this will be mind-boggling, even if it's not like that real. It kind of is.
It is wild to think about, and it's not something you were thinking about after they played Georgia. But
I wasn't even thinking about it until you started this segment. I didn't even buy it. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the team you cover. You're coming to my town. I may have to. I gotta go to my daughter's play on Friday night, so I can't take you to see the sights. And also, I'm an old person, and I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
First off, so do I. Second off, I will be eating Wawa for every meal, so it doesn't like there's no.
There are 5 in Gainesville now, so you will have plenty of options.
I will actually be staying in Jacksonville. I forgot to tell you that, but still.
Oh,
well,
then I
got to crash at the Staples. I'll hang with you.
I was gonna say I got a couple places for you. The Bearded Pig, if you want some barbecue.
Okay.
Riverside area. It's outstanding.
But I will just be eating Wawa. It's the truth. For our listeners, I am a South Jersey native who misses Wawa more than I should miss anything. I miss it's, by the way, real quick aside, my 2 favorite like foods, if you ask me right now, not literally to rate it, but just make me the happiest, are Wawa and Skyline Chili. And Florida, South Florida specifically, has South Florida has 2 random skylines.
It's not random. People move there. Like there's a Permane Brothers in Fort Lauderdale too, just because people from Pittsburgh move there.
But it's weird the skyline doesn't try to extend anywhere else except that. But so I've realized when I retire, I need to retire to South Florida because I can just get my 2 favorite places in the same spot.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So I had a Wawa double bacon cheeseburger and fries the other day.
Had the burger.
The burger's excellent. The fries are kind of like Checkers fries. So they're outstanding too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. But that's how it makes me sad. That's how long it's been since I get to go to Wawa. I haven't even had their fries. So they used to not have fries.
Have some Wawa, but go to the Bearded Pig and get the beef rib or the brisket poutine, or go to Taco. Ooh. Yeah, it's really good. Go to Taco Lou on Jacksonville Beach. Taco Lou is you will want to order every taco on the menu. There's one with filet mignon, brie, and grapes that makes no sense.
Oh, I can see it.
Unbelievable. And you will want to eat 20 tacos.
All right, I'm going to the taco place. I've had a lot of barbecue this year in the South. Yeah. We even talked about it last week. I'm going to that taco place and trying that one. All right, I'm in.
It's outstanding. So let's talk about the game,
Fine.
Which I think could be a fun game between 2 evenly matched, not great teams.
Yeah, I think spread's what, 2.5. Like it is 2 teams that I think I tweeted this Monday. Like there is no handicapping this game because they are 2 teams that there's no sustainable data point. It's like just sporadic nonsense, and you don't know which Richardson you're getting. You genuinely never know what LSU you're getting. So it's like discussing this game feels pointless. I do kind of think I which is great for podcasting. Yeah.
And here we are.
I kind of think LSU like matches up pretty well. I think their pass rush can make life really hard, stuff like that. But what fascinates me about this game is it's the Brian, and I don't even know how much people outside of Baton Rouge talk about this in Florida, but the Brian Kelly, Billy Napier of it all. Because one, I mean, this was a real thing throughout this coaching search that I'm not saying most people probably didn't want the coach from UL like in Louisiana. Yeah. But at the same time, there was a decent portion of people who were like, this guy's the next big thing. He's proving he can do it in Louisiana, and he has the SEC Saban ties. He knows how to do it big. Like, why are you not looking at him? And just to tell you, and you know this, Scott Woodward just did not consider it. And obviously,
No. And Scott Strickland immediately, like, he was the only target right off the bat. Like,
absolutely.
If he had said no, there were other people on the list, but they weren't even going to think about moving on the list until he said no. And remember, he turned down Auburn and South Carolina as well.
He was very picky and just smart, man. And I'm not even here to like dunk on that because you got Brian Kelly. Like they're fine. They got one of the 4 best coaches in America. But still, this is going to be, whether they like it or not, a thing that gets compared for the next 10 years or whatever, because and it's even more interesting for, people like you and me who love getting into this stuff, but like they are a parallel of each other in so many ways. Like, I know Napier is Saban and that's the whole thing, but he's also Brian Kelly in a lot of ways 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And that's why there's a discussion to have here of, if you are LSU, should you have, and I'm not saying I know the answer, but should you have thought about who's going to be the guy to be the next great one, but there's more risk? There's a 20% less assurance rate, if you're Scott Woodward.
Well, if you ask Florida fans in the first half of the Missouri game, Billy Napier should hire an offensive coordinator and never call another play. And it's funny how they've vacillated on that. They have fired him as offensive coordinator 4 times already this season.
That's actually a discussion I'm open to having. But
yeah, so it's funny because it's the same discussion that A&M fans have about Jimbo Fisher, and I'm like, guys, you hired these people because they do this. Yes. So let's not go crazy here. But the game I've been playing with people around here is, what would Florida's record be right now if Dan Mullen was coaching this team, the same roster? Because it's a similar roster that he would have had. Yep. They didn't do a ton in the portal.
Nope.
So now they did. I mean, Osiris Torrance is an NFL prospect,
but not like game changing.
Yeah. But they didn't. It's a very similar roster to what Mullen would have had. Would they be about the same record, or would they be better, worse? I mean, they would have lost to Tennessee for sure, and I think they would have lost to Kentucky.
I think so too,
and maybe would have lost to Utah too. I don't know if they would have.
I think they lose to Utah. But Mullen's so good in there. Like,
right,
Mullen, the game coach, was never the problem.
Right, game day Mullen is a good coach. So
what is the point you're getting at when you play this? Because I'm not sure. What are you asking really?
I'm just trying to. I'm just asking, bro.
Just asking questions, guys.
No. What I think is interesting is, do you think the record would be the same,
probably
with Napier, or better? Because the difference is the roster is getting better behind, in the future, whereas it would not have been getting better with Mullen coaching.
Okay, exactly. So we are on the same page here.
Yeah.
Like, this year does not matter. Yes, you want to see Richardson develop. You'd hope that he can do more, and you never want to lose games. But this year, I'm not judging Billy Napier off this, because also I'm not judging Billy Napier at the way I watch Dan Mullen, because Dan Mullen's going to get the most out of a team. I'm hiring Billy Napier because, to your exact point, he is going to make you the best team for 10 years. And that's what it's all about.
He's going to build a true SEC roster, and or at least that's the goal. That's what he was trying to do. We don't know if he's going to do that yet, because he hasn't actually done it yet, but
no,
we'll see in a couple of years. It was interesting though, watching the Red River game, Texas, Oklahoma. Nick Evers comes in at the very end for Oklahoma. They probably should have let him play a little bit earlier, but Nick Evers would have been the one that all the Florida fans were begging to play instead of Anthony Richardson. Every time Anthony Richardson struggled, had Mullen stayed.
Yeah. So I want to get back to, I guess your answer maybe to this question is not saying who would you have done, but you run ass, right? You are a coaching.
Oh, the Auerbach, Staples and something. What is the other? Yeah, the search firm. Yeah.
But yes, the search firm. But how do you view it? And maybe it's just contextual to each team, because LSU, Scott Woodward, we both know, thinks of it as, it's not about, like, LSU is a top 4 job in his mind,
right.
Top 5 job. And he views it as, you should be hiring the same way USC should be hiring and Alabama should be hiring. And you don't want a guy who has more variables for not working because he hasn't done it yet. That's how he views it. So his was a no-brainer. You go Brian Kelly. But how do you view it in that scenario? Do you want the guy who is building and about to be the next big thing for how long? Or do you want the guy like Brian Kelly who's been doing it for 20 years?
I want the guy who's going to come in and build it and be the guy forever, because then I don't have to do this again.
Yep.
And you're seeing with one of Scott Woodward's hires what happens if somebody isn't on the ascent, because I don't think Jimbo's on the ascent. Now, Jimbo can fix it.
Yeah.
There are ways for Jimbo to fix it. He can't fix it this year, but if Jimbo makes a more user-friendly offense, Jimbo could be fine because he's recruiting well. Everything else works. But I want here, like, look at everybody. For Nick Saban, when he was hired by LSU, was a pretty good coach at Michigan State.
Yep.
Nobody knew what he'd become. If he didn't, and the thing is, if he didn't have that NFL itch, he might still be at LSU.
Yep.
So Dabo was a receivers coach and recruiting coordinator, who was made the interim coach just because force of personality. The AD at Clemson, Terry Don Baker, looked at him and said, "There's something about this guy." And Tommy Bowden, who actually was the guy who got fired, was like, "Make him the interim.
Yeah,
he's special." And so, but nobody would have hired him. Like, would Dabo have gotten? Dabo wasn't going to get a head coaching job off of that season if Clemson hadn't made him the head coach. So you just don't know. I mean, Lincoln Riley was an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Yep. Now, granted, they had the exposure to him as the OC to know that this guy's qualified to be the head coach. Yeah. But I think that's the better move. I think like the Urban Meyer to Ryan Day handoff. Yep. It's better if the guy is in your program already and you know that he's special.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll find out with Brian Kelly's old job if Marcus Freeman is that guy.
Great example. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, the truth is, whether people like it or not, if Billy Napier wins an SEC title, or God forbid more, like a national title, not God forbid, I don't care. Good for you, Billy Napier. Like, sorry. That will be a really bad mark against LSU and Scott Woodward. And it's just, but if Brian Kelly wins, it doesn't matter at all. Good for them. But I'm just fascinated because, and I'm just repeating myself, but like Brian Kelly, I mean, Scott Woodward just views it as, I think he genuinely views it in data ranges. Like he views it as, again, if we're playing Madden, like Brian Kelly's a 94 and Billy Napier's an 87, who, throwing numbers at my ass, who could be a 99, but you just don't know. And he doesn't want to view it that way because LSU is too valuable of a property to like play. Yeah, and he doesn't want to be the team making that.
It's FPI. You want to be, you want to have the FPI favorite, the number that says you should win every game by this many points. And I get it. Auburn Elvis asked us a great question. We'll close on this. Has Andy been approached for any new NIL deals?
I have to talk to you about this.
Big catch this weekend. And look, I never caught a pass in an SEC game until this past weekend. And I caught a pass from Haynes King in the Texas A&M Alabama game. Caught it one-handed. And so I'm going to beat this into the ground until
you deserve to.
The day I die. Here's my catch again.
Laughing alone in my home because it was the most human, real reaction that any of us would have when you caught. There was no playing it cool, no like, yep, whatever. It was just a visceral, guys, I caught it. And it's how I would have reacted. Like it was just like, I did it. And that's exactly how we
I played hot potato with it. Like it,
okay, yeah, because we can't see it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks like, well, I'm holding it in front of my phone because I was filming the whole time.
Yes.
And so I catch it with my left hand and I hold it up and you can see like the Texas A&M logo on it. And I'm like, I got the ball. And so Ross Bjork is the Texas A&M athletic director. He's standing in front of me. I figure he actually owns this football. It has his logo on it.
That's one way to look at it.
And so I tossed it to him like a receiver tossing it to the official to get the ball set in a hurry up offense. Because I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I can't hold this any longer.
I'm not cool enough to really know how to handle this situation. Exactly. So follow-up question. Did you palm it? Did you kind of cradle it? Which either way, one-handed with a phone.
Well,
I'm not. That's
if you watch if you watch the CBS footage, you'll see.
Ooh, I will.
How I did it.
And we know he can catch when he jumps. King, blitz coming. Anderson giving chase. This one he throws to the sideline.
So I take it off the carom. Ross Bjork, by the way, tipped it, former Emporia State fullback.
Oh.
And it hits me in the hand, and I kind of guide it into my stomach, and that's how I held onto it.
It's impressive nonetheless. I just wanted a full picture, so I appreciate that.
It's one of those. If I was about to get hit, I do not think I would have held on.
That's fair, but you know what? You did, and I don't care, man.
Would I still been able to film? Is the question?
That's the thing. You were filming. The phone didn't drastically shake. That's where I will give you the most credit. Like, that was a borderline steady cam operator, and you still caught the football, and you yelled, "Guys, I got the ball." So no notes.
Tyler Pigg, who works in Texas A&M's video department, was the one yelling, "Andy!" I was like, what?
I'm proud of you. Yeah.
It
was a way to cap off a huge week for you. So yeah,
it was unbelievable. It's one of those things that whole week was incredible. Ari and I had so much fun, and we spent the whole week going, did we pick the wrong game? And of course we picked the perfect game. And then you get this crazy, like, one of us catches a football at the end of the game.
Last question. You might have answered this on the show.
Yeah.
The number one best thing you ate on that trip.
Oh, that's tough.
And I know most of the places you've been, I think.
Yeah, so we had Archibald's ribs, which obviously I've had a bunch of times. They were delicious. Went to Pig and Pint in Jackson on our way, which was great. I'd been there before. The thing I had that was really good that I tweeted it out, but I didn't really talk much about it, is there was a lamb shank dish at Snack Bar in Oxford.
Okay.
And so Snack Bar, John Currents is the big
never been to
chef
Snack Bar
in Oxford. He's got City Groceries, his famous place. Then Big Bad Breakfast is probably the one that has proliferated the most. He's got those in a bunch of different cities in the South now. But Snack Bar is kind of his lab, basically, for lack of a better term. Great cocktails. The Manhattan they have is unbelievable. If you order the bread and butter, it's like these little mini Parker House rolls with just the best butter you've ever had. But it was they have a special every night. So like Tuesday's fried chicken, Wednesday is cookbook night, and they pick a recipe from John Currents' cookbooks. In this case, it was a recipe from one of his friends' cookbooks, and it was a lamb shank reduction with all these root vegetables sitting in the brown gravy created by the lamb shank. It was unbelievable.
I'm salivating, and I'm also looking at their menu because I love John Currents' restaurants. Confit duck wings are on.
I had those too. That was my appetizer. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I know this is terrible podcasting, but I go to Oxford every other year, if not more. So I will be trying.
Those were on my Twitter feed, and that place, it's right next to Big Bad Breakfast. It's in the same little strip mall, and that place does not get as overwhelmed as his other places like City Grocery and Brewery.
I didn't even heard of it.
The other thing I had that was great, and it was one of those things that I hadn't had in a long time, and I don't think I'd ever had this particular dish there. But like Ajax Diner is
love Ajax,
perfect Southern comfort food. It's a meat and three. I grew up eating meat and threes when I was a kid in Columbia, South Carolina. We used to go to a meat and three called Lizard's Thicket, and people in Columbia know exactly what Lizard's Thicket is. Now Ajax is like the million times better version of Lizard's Thicket, but Ajax has a country fried steak sandwich that has mashed potatoes and butter beans on it. It is so freaking good.
All right. I do love Ajax. I haven't gotten that specifically, but I'm a huge fan. Proud Larry's is also a favorite of mine.
Oh, I have not been there.
Yeah, it's nearby Ajax, I believe, and it's right off the square. And it's like, maybe I loved it so much because it was like when I moved to Mississippi before I moved to Louisiana. Mm-hmm. So it was like my introduction in some ways to kind of that like catfish, like spicy remoulade kind of situation. But they have is it catfish atchafalaya? No. But yeah, it was just a perfect catfish dish.
The atchafalaya preparation, which the folks in Louisiana came up with. Oh, redfish atchafalaya is one of my favorite dishes in the world. So,
but it's like you have to be mentally prepared. And granted, you are a skilled professional eater, but I often I don't order it as much anymore because my body can't handle it.
I don't think Ari was prepared.
Yeah,
it's like this is like people assume because I've lost this weight that I can't eat very much anymore. I exercise a lot, so I can still eat a lot, and. Yeah, he was having trouble hanging. So we're gonna get Ari on the workout plan so he can actually enjoy some of this stuff.
I eat poorly, but I cannot eat in bulk in a strong way. So it's like the worst of both worlds, I guess. So yeah, I'm with Art.
Yeah, because he after every dinner we'd walk out and he'd go, "Are you wrecked?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good."
Hey man, it's your superpower. It's not a bad one.
If we got to have one. I can't.
Yeah.
Apparently, I can catch footballs. No one ever tried to throw me one when I was a kid.
Wow,
They were like, "Go
filming.
block that guy." But yeah, we'll see. But Brody, it has been a pleasure. Third Saturday in October coming up.
Can't wait.
Biggest one in decades. We'll talk to you soon.